Also, I it's so beautiful. I need to like find a book cover or something.
Isn't that cover is just stunning?
It really is. And it makes so much sense now. Like I didn't grasp the understanding of the cover until now.
Yeah.
Oh, hey Jessica, how are you?
Hi.
You got this. Were you able to find another one, like online or something? Because I know the store didn't have it.
um, I did find some online. I can't remember off the top of my head the website, so let me check.
Yeah, no worries. Kindred,
So good.
so good, so good. Best book so far of this year.
Just
For
just just outstanding. Oh,
the fact that her brain works this way, right?
right.
With a story so good,
And she
so
was
traumatizing, so impactful.
young when
Mm-hmm.
she wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look up in a second how old she was, but just blew my mind.
So amazing. So we have the main character.
Mhm.
Let me. What was it? Where was it located? Like Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
she's from
Dana and her husband live in California,
California
but she's being transported to Maryland.
to Maryland,
Hmm.
other side of the country, completely different sides of the country. Oh, okay. Blackbird Wholesale Notebooks. Okay. Oh, nice.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it too, Jessica. How did your mom feel about it? Was your mom as enthusiastic as you are? Hey, Ulysses.
Hey, Elises. How are you guys? Hey, Mama Nora. Book was outstanding. Um, I understand why people cannot read this book more than once.
It's
Um,
hard to get through.
you have a main character, Dana, who, her and her husband, who is a white man, which, again, is that the one that you just got?
It's the one I got uh 2 years ago,
Okay.
and it has
I love that slipcover.
it has art in it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the prologue,
Mm-hmm.
and then the introduction is by 𝘬𝘪𝑒𝑣𝑑𝑢, who was able to sign it for me. And then it has a couple more pictures throughout, but the drowning.
That was, yeah, man. I wish, yeah. So I read this and then I watched the TV show. Um, and I probably should have waited to watch the episodes
Mhm.
because it just was
Not quite the same.
not the same. The TV show on its own would have been great.
Hmm.
Call it something different. Call it something different. Which one is Edition? Is that that's the what's that publisher that or the printing company that did that book?
Um,
You gave it to us last time. I forgot.
yeah, I did. It's in my favorite, so let me just join the chat and then I'll post it in the chat.
Okay. And then, so we have the main character Dana who lives in California with her husband and starts to feel, this feeling of like she's losing her. Well, that's how I thought of it as where she was like losing herself. Um, she starts feeling sick and like she's gonna faint, and then she then is transported back in time. Honestly, I don't remember the time. What was it, like 15? No, 16 something. And she meets Rufus. Let me see. My dizziness cleared away. I found myself sitting in a small bed. Yeah. Where is it? Where's the time? I want to say it was like 15, 16 something. The Folio Society. Here it goes. What year was it? Maybe I should have wrote that down. Either way, transported back in time.
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. When she goes back in time, around the times he burns the drapes, he tells her it's 1815.
1815.
I
Okay.
think it's either
15 in there somewhere.
It's either when he burns the drapes or when he breaks his leg. They say that it's 1815. I'm pretty sure it's the drapes.
Yeah. It's the drapes, because she was like, he was like, well, how can it? Because she was explaining that she wasn't from here.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it wasn't the first time that she saved him. Mm-hmm. And it was the second time, and he tried to burn down the house or the plantation, and she saves him. And so they were arguing that, well, he was like, well, how can your time be different than my time? Because it's 1815 everywhere. And she was like, no. And so this whole book is really about her saving Rufus, and making sure that her ancestors are alive, and he's able to stay alive long enough to have descendants.
Yeah.
One thing that I know we'll go more into the story itself. One thing I kept thinking is how traumatic moving forward. Like, she's going back. This whole book is going back in time, right? But how traumatic to know your ancestors and how bad they were, right? Oh. How bad they were. One thing that the book that I really love, that we get to see the ancestors and their storyline, is the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. And we get to see from the moment, the slave ships come, the natives living on the land, and how they are also, building a community with people of color and stuff like that. And that's how her ancestors came about. But I kept thinking, like, I can't even imagine living with my great grandfather, and he's such a fucking asshole to me, and not say a word.
And she could not tell him, because the way he would have, there's always that paradox problem. The person could alter the future. They could make it so you're never born. They could use it to blackmail and manipulate you. And we see later on in the book that Rufus he already starts to blackmail her. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll send you a letter to Kevin if you just convince Alice to like me. Like, listen, boy, don't start with me. Like, he was just insufferable. He was insufferable. But you can't tell your ancestor, hey, I'm here to save you. I'm your ancestor. So she's got to bite her tongue this whole time while he's just treating her horribly. And she's saving his life time after time after time, risking the literal skin on her back.
Literally.
Ugh.
Really. Such a good book. Okay. Hold on. You can go over the synopsis really quick. Let me take care of my kid real quick.
Okay. So the book starts so quickly. The prologue is like a couple of pages, and we get the sense that the main character, Dana, has lost her arm and she's been in some type of accident, and she's in the hospital. She's got police asking her, "Hey, what happened to you? Did your husband do this to you?"
Yeah.
So when you first start reading this book, it's like, is this book about domestic wait a minute,
Right.
is this a domestic abuse book? Because the police are asking her about her husband and whether he roughed her up. And the book starts off, and they are seemingly a happy couple in the first chapter, finally moving out to California into their new house. They both have abundant libraries. They're writers, living the writer's dream, living off your book check.
Look.
And immediately, Dana gets dizzy and nauseous and ill. And this is the only thing the TV did well, is where she's talking to Kevin.
Any calls on the phone, so anyways.
And then she's talking to her husband, and then she can't really hear what he's saying because she gets dizzy, she gets nauseous, she gets ill. And before she knows it, she blinks and she is somewhere else where there's a river and woods and a redheaded woman screaming and crying and a child laying face down in a river drowning. So her first instinct is, I need to save this child. So she dives in, saves the child, brings him out of the water, performs life-to-life resuscitation. And while she's doing this, the child's mother is beating on her relentlessly, screaming, "My baby, you're killing my baby." And the boy starts breathing. The boy jumps up, cries to his mother, gets in his mother's arms. His mother holds him. And then a man comes with a rifle or a shotgun, a rifle. And one second. Excuse me. Comes with a rifle and points it right at Dana and pulls the trigger. But Dana doesn't die because she blinks again and she's in her present time, dripping wet, not standing where she was.
In the
And yeah, just dripping.
The fact that she comes back wet too, right? She brings that back to the present time.
Yep.
And anything that happens to her, she brings back to the present time.
And at that point, her husband you can't deny something happened because she was standing right in front of you. She disappeared right in front of you and then reappeared behind you. Something like magic. Like, you can't deny. But they have this kind of back and forth, and then he does kind of mention like psychiatric care at one point. Like, do you think you need psychiatric care? And she's just like, well, number one, hell yeah, I just went back to the antebellum South. What the like? But also, no, because this is real. Like, this is very real. This is so real. And I remember reading one of Octavia Butler's interviews, and in her interview she says, the interviewer actually asks her about making the character Kevin white, and Butler just says, I gave her that husband to make her life complicated, to make things even more complicated. I know there's a back and forth with that I didn't notice as much, but there's a back and forth with Kevin and Dana a lot in this book. First where they're going back and forth about whether or not she did go back into the past.
Yeah.
And then later on there's a back and forth about they have this kind of like non-argument going back and forth about slavery and the way Black people are treated,
which I found very uncomfortable because he at some points sympathizes with like the slave owners. I mean, this is later on in the book where he was like, it's just their time, it's just that this is just what they do and I understand them and all of these things, and it's like, that you've evolved, the world has evolved. Like, these are awful people. very awful people. But yeah, he does sympathize with well, not sympathize, but
He defends them at least.
defends them.
Yeah, and it's oh, and and Butler, I just love how she just says like, I gave her that husband to complicate things.
Mm,
And I'm just like, okay, well. But I remember being in there there's a bookstore named Sister Sci-Fi. It's mostly online on the West Coast.
mhm,
They're up in Oakland, California, and they did a Kindred watch party for the show. So basically, everybody watched on their own screens, but we watched it at the same time, and then we discussed in a Zoom call. And I gave an introduction to that meeting. And
mhm,
then the scholar and teacher, I think Dr. Ayanna Jameson, came and she spoke about Kindred. And one of the things that she told us was that Kindred sparked from a discussion that Octavia Butler was having in a history class with the creator of Kwanzaa. Um, so she's Butler's in this history class, and they're discussing slavery, and they're discussing their parents and their ancestors. And the creator of Kwanzaa says something akin to, well, like honestly, our parents and the older generations are the ones who are not fighting as hard as they should. And honestly, we should just get rid of them and kill them off. But if we did that, I would have to kill off my own parents. So there's got to be something. And he just basically says,
mhm.
if I were in slavery times, I would have XYZ. And he just kept making these statements about what he would have done. And Butler's argument was, you don't know what you would have done.
Exactly.
You're not in slavery times. You're not in the antebellum South. Our ancestors did the best that they could with the situation that they had. So for
Absolutely.
him to be like, oh, well, I would have done better. I would have killed all the slave masters. I would have. And it's like, you really don't know what you would have done. So Butler,
Exactly. That reminds me of like Kanye, like slavery didn't have to happen.
right.
Excuse me?
Right. And so Butler took this discussion and she took this conversation that she had, and she thought, well, what would somebody do if they went back in time to the antebellum South? And I think she did a really good job of conveying the horrors, the monstrosity, the people who were monstrosities doing these horrors to our ancestors. And
Absolutely.
she conveyed perfectly what it would have been like for a modern day black woman, to go back in time to the antebellum South.
Absolutely.
So I was like, that was my first time hearing that about this conversation between Butler and the creator of Kwanzaa, which I can't remember his name, but I will look it up and put it in the chat. But that was some of the research that Dr. Ayanna Jameson found out about when she was doing her work on Butler.
That's the coolest thing ever. I mean, I know of course a lot of authors find inspiration through not just personal experience or situations or stories of other people, but to have a discussion and it sparks one of the greatest books um, ever is phenomenal. That's super cool. I love that. Um, sorry, I
Sorry, I was just typing in the chat the person who created Kwanzaa. I was looking at the comments, and Jessica says, oh no, Alyssa says, but after a while he understands thoroughly the horrors because he refuses to go back after being there for years. Yes. And the the one thing that stuck out to me is, when he mentioned the childbirth, and it wasn't even childbirth, but when he says, I saw, a woman and a child die in childbirth, and she says, yeah, that happened a lot. And he was like, oh no, this was, forced.
Mm.
And he
So I
said
book
that
down.
that terrible thing that slave owner did. And that was something that Kevin witnessed. And I think that was probably one of the many things that he witnessed that made him realize, like, this is barbaric. I
Right.
can't believe I made excuses for this. Right. And I wish she had a moment of him saying, like, I can't believe I made excuses for this. But the book is perfect as it is, either way.
Yeah. That was the one scene. And I knew we were gonna get to it eventually, but that was the one scene that I was just like,
No.
I had to put it down.
No. And did you read it with, how did you consume this book? Did you use audiobooks, ebooks,
I physically
physical?
read 30% of it, and then I listened to the last.
Okay. Yeah, when I listened to audiobook. So when I got to that part, I paused it because I knew what was coming. And then I listened to it, and then I paused it again. And it felt like, there's only 2 books that I paused like that too. There's only 2 books that I paused like that about Octavia Butler, and that's Kindred and 𝐭𝐨𝑯𝘴𝘵.
Mm. That 𝐭𝐨𝑯𝘴𝘵 is hard.
Yes.
It's so hard.
One of my favorites, but I will say not as good as Kindred.
No. This was not epic
It
on
was,
so many levels.
and you know what? For something being under 300 pages,
It feels fleshed out so well. Like
how did she do that?
yeah. It was done so well. I was never bored.
Mm-mm.
I remember when Kevin first went in with her and was transported with her.
Were you surprised?
I was not surprised. But I appreciated him, playing the role, and then, even just trying to advocate, like, let's try to help Rufus so he doesn't become his father.
Right.
His father was a fucking dick.
Ugh.
Yes, Rufus was the main character, but his mom and Rufus was an asshole as a child.
Mhm.
Just talking to people any type of way. I just kept thinking, like, when he was a child, like, oh, he needs to get his ass whooped, like someone break out a belt. Like, I kept thinking that over and over. And then but his father, knowing that character, right, Dana's great grandfather, right? Like,
Mm-mm.
I would have took you out.
Trash. Like, Rufus can live.
Yeah.
I need to be able to be born, but you?
We're done.
You don't need to live, bro.
I don't need you.
You can get taken out. Jessica says, but shout out to Kevin, because I really thought that dude was gonna go fully slavery when he was stranded for 5 years.
So
He
fast.
was out there helping people on their journey to freedom. Yes, he was, and had the scars to show it. He came back with a new accent and a scar across his eye, and she said, have you been helping people free from slavery? And he was like, yes, what else you think I've been doing?
Mm.
After I had to live out there and see how people were treated. And then at one point when Dana goes back, Waylon does say, he says, that damn Kevin, but he calls him by his last name, which is, I can't remember. But it's like, that damn Kevin, he never really did know the line between blacks and, he didn't say blacks,
What?
but he said between
Yeah.
blacks and whites, and that's what got him in trouble, and that's why he had to fight a lot. and got into precarious situations because he was doing that. And then I cannot remember. I think it was Sarah who Dana said this to, but she said it was either Sarah or Alice, but she was like, "Yeah, he's been helping black people get free, and if he wasn't, doing that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have married him. I married him because he's that kind of person."
Mm-hmm.
So, even though Butler gave Kevin to Dana to cause friction and conflict,
It was so beneficial.
right? Kevin came
Wow.
out in the end, and he wasn't about to go back.
Well, the plot itself, right? Because the Rufus' father, I forgot what the asshole's name was.
Waylon,
Waylon.
I think that was the last name.
Mr. Waylon. That's what.
Yeah,
Master Waylon. He, would have been on Dana, right?
right.
We didn't have Kevin, to say, "Oh, well, she's my property," etc., etc. So we would have, Dana would have been in probably a worse situation. I mean, hypothetically, of course, but
Mhm.
yeah, it definitely helped the story for sure. I was really worried he was gonna. Yeah, same. I did audiobook. Mama did too.
Yeah, we did audiobook. I think the audiobook the narrator was, I believe, Kim Stanton or Staunton. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, but I think she did a good job with the voices. I really enjoyed it. Like a few of Butler's books, I kind of internally wanted new narration for them, but
Mm-hmm.
Kim Staunton has repeatedly made me satisfied with her performance of reading Kindred. I like her performance.
Yeah, she was an amazing audiobook narrator.
And I do want to
Voice
say, oh yeah, voice actor. I forget. I'm like, do I call them narrator or voice actors? I guess both. I wanted to also do a shout out to narrators, like, because the three of the books from the Patternist series got re-narrated
Yep.
by Robin Miles. So if any of you guys want to check those out, I got them even though I already had them because I'm a fanatic for Octavia Butler. But if you guys want to check that out, those have new recordings. So Alyssa says honestly this was her best book written. Yes. Like yes. I think my favorite is honestly my three favorites are 𝐏𝐨𝑚, Wild Seed, and Kindred.
Mm-hmm.
Um but Kindred is her magnus opum. It's her most famous work. It's her most impactful work, I think. The work that she won the awards for was Parable of the Talents.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly,
I love this more.
if black people, because this was 1979, if more black people were considered in fantasy awards at that time and this was on the roster to be read, I think this would have won some kind of awards.
Oh, absolutely.
It definitely would have won some kind of awards.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It didn't win any awards.
I can check, but I want to say, let's
Maggie
see.
and Waylon were trash. Look, Maggie could get it, okay? Bitch. Oh my God. What was oh my God, Alice. What was her name? And she would just be like, bitch.
Sarah. And then I love the first time Sarah was like, bitch, under her breath. Dana had to think twice, like, damn, is she talking about
It's to
me?
me?
And then
Yes.
she's like, oh wait, no, of course we talking about Maggie.
Maggie, bitch.
Oh, I hated her.
Oh my gosh.
It says, okay, so I think the award that Kindred won was specifically for the graphic novel,
Oh, okay.
the graphic novel adaptation. Locust Awards and polls.
This was crazy. Why are they trying to burn down the house? Because you mad.
Right. Because you're
Look.
angry. And then he said, and then he told the damn story about, well, I just started burning the drapes because I wanted a horse, and so my daddy sold it, so I burnt the stable down. So what you mean? I burned the drapes too. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Look, my daughter wouldn't have made it out alive.
Like, burn the damn house down.
Clearly,
Oh
you ain't thinking about it. You live such a privileged life that you have the audacity to pout that bad, right? To get so upset that you can just risk it all. Yeah, no.
Burn
You
the damn drape. And he just stood there while they went ablaze.
Mm.
And in the TV show, they made it seem like it was so much worse. The whole house was on fire.
Yeah, the whole house.
The whole house was on fire. I was like, now why did they change that?
I hate that they changed it to where Kevin was
her boyfriend. Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't even a boyfriend at that point.
He wasn't even her boyfriend. That's true. She had just met him.
It was a Tinder date.
And then it just made me so frustrated because she goes back into the antebellum South. And the whole point is like, okay, she's supposed to keep Rufus alive. She ends up trying to teach Nigel how to read. She's trying to work around so that way she's having camaraderie with the other black people.
Mm-hmm.
They turned it into like, okay, well, she spends all her time in Kevin's room and they're just hooking up all the time and falling in love because they're just acquaintances, but let's make them fall in love.
Right.
She's in the antebellum South. Why are you trying to make her fall in love with this man in the antebellum South?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I don't like that change at all.
Terrible.
I don't like that change.
I wasn't surprised about Kevin. I expected that for him. The present time wasn't the kindness of black people. So to go to the past, he had to have better. He better have recognized quick that it was a situation. Look, absolutely, yeah. And to be in, because even his storyline, from my understanding, like, or him and his family wasn't a fan of her, of Dana.
Yeah, his parents weren't alive, but his sister told him that she was not going to talk to him anymore and he was not invited to her house anymore because he wanted to marry a black woman.
Yeah.
He said, like, she said, I don't want you over and we're done talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was surprised and then Dana was not.
Right.
Like,
at all. She adapted so well. Like, of course she was traumatized, but she played the role when she did go back in time. I was one of the people that didn't read the book again. I couldn't. I picked up the graphic book thinking it would be okay because I already knew what was going to happen. Still was traumatized and had to put down several times. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Their anxiety for Dana, yeah, and I had to pass on this read. Look, it is not a book that you devour in one sitting. It is not that kind of book. It is hard. You are reading from a modern woman who is going back in time to her ancestors and experiencing in first person slavery, abuse, and trauma, and as well as, other people who are going through those as well. And it just is not a book. So please, like, I'm glad you put it down. Like, do not feel the need. I mean, this is our last book. We saved it to the end for a reason. I'm glad we saved it to the end because I don't know if I could pick up after reading this, pick up another Octavia next month.
Right.
Again, I don't know if I could do that.
I think it's like you read Kindred and then seeing how harrowing Kindred is, it's like, damn, do I want to take a chance? Are all her books harrowing like this? The truth is, yes, they kind of are. Her books are very grim, dark. But I think as Black people, this one is definitely going to affect us the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and while I was reading this, it felt personal. Like, I just remember just gritting my teeth, cussing them out under my breath, having
Mhm.
to pause the audiobook. There are certain parts of the book that I have cried, that I've just felt so emotional that I've cried, like, oh my god, I'm so either I'm so irritated with these racist white people, or I'm so afraid for Dana. I'm so afraid for Alice. And the last chapter, the rope, is the
Yeah.
scene that I cry the most at the end, you know.
Where she comes from.
At the rope, when she gets transported and it's raining, and then Rufus takes her to the barn, and then she
Oh.
sees what's in the barn.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. I'm not
Yeah.
ready for that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm not ready.
It's a very
Oh,
heavy
stop.
book. It's a very heavy book. It's a very heavy book.
It really is. And it's like we said, it's not one that I'm glad that, people are putting it down
Yeah.
and taking their time with it. I'm glad we also pushed back. I'm glad we also pushed back the live discussion, because I had to put it down at least 4 times, and
Yeah.
I had to take days breaks. And I'm not one to usually have to do that, and so I took like days in between my reads. Usually I'll put it down for a little bit, like process it, and then move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this one I had to put down for a second.
I cried. And my husband kept saying, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just listening to Kindred again."
Say less. The whole time I was like, go get yourself checked. You got a psychotic, folks. Look, absolutely. The TV show was horrible. The TV show was horrible if you write the book, right? If you go in not knowing anything, loved it. And then it ended on a cliffhanger. We're never going to get another episode out of it. But it is such a disservice for those who have read the book. It is beyond a disservice to Octavia. And I know that my sister, who has not read it, she was mad. She was like, why would they do this? And the TV show was doing so well. No, don't put Octavia's name to that. Don't do that. What we not gonna do is disrespect her. Okay, we're not.
It was like 263 pages of a masterpiece, and they took those pages and they wrote whatever they want.
They did exactly what they wanted. We didn't need to know about old boy and his sister trying to track him down. They're supposed to be married, okay?
Yeah.
Why? No, This went from a married interracial couple to a booty call.
Right.
No.
That was the decision I disliked the most. And the first time I read this book, I did not read it on my own. I buddy read it with my boyfriend, so we sat on Discord and just, I would stream the audio for both of us to listen to. And we listened to it over the course of 2 weeks because it was so hard to get through. We decided to watch the first episode together, and the first thing he says is like, "No, I don't even want to watch the rest of this. Kevin's not even her man. Like, Kevin's not even her husband. Like, I don't even want to watch it." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to watch it either. But I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish it." I was very disappointed. Like, what was the motivation between making them acquaintances? She met him like a day before on her birthday or something.
Exactly. And then have him go through all of that traumatic experience with her. And they weren't even a thing.
And we knew what was coming. We know what's coming, that he's going to be left behind. So now this man who's a stranger gets left behind in the antebellum South, has no reason to stay behind at the Wayland plantation to come get you, has
At all.
no reason to come back to the Wayland plantation to come get you, has no like the only reason he would have is like, okay, I hope Dana comes back because maybe I can get back to my present time. That's his only motivation, but he doesn't love her. He doesn't really care about her.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know why they made that decision.
Like, we are privileged compared to our ancestors. We are dealing with our own things, but not on that level. Exactly. I always say, like, for those who like stick around with and join our friends, I try to be as grateful as possible, right? And I have these conversations with Maya, and I'm like, you know, I'm complaining about XYZ, but at the end of the day, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. And this was a great representation, a great wake-up call for, you know, being able to see a modern woman experiencing trauma that her ancestors had to deal with. We don't have to deal with half that shit. We have microaggressions, they're micro. We have racism, not to the extent of slavery, and beatings and whoopings and hangings and death, and we're considered human beings. We're not objects and property. And I try to be as grateful as possible. I complain about shit all the time, but we do not have to experience half the things at all. Like, I hate the US government and all of these. I have so many complaints. But when you're a property, even when they were sick, it's like you got to go to this person over here and hope they have a herb for something. But either way, get out there in those fields. So it just, and then if you got lucky, you got to work in the house. If you were lucky.
That's the part that grinds me up. Just oh God, he made her go work in the fields, and I told you I told you, I had an anxiety attack last night, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, if this was the antebellum South, wouldn't nobody give a damn if I was having an anxiety attack. I'd still have to be out there. So I was like, okay, let me just
anxiety. We get to have we have the privilege to be able to have anxiety and depression and PTO and all of sick time, to take time off. We have the privilege of doing that, and I just, again, that is not optional. And for a modern woman in 2014, 2016, no.
In the TV show?
In the TV show is in 2016. I'm getting mixed up. But I want to say it was like
in the book it was in the 70s.
70s, okay. And in the 70s, where you have the ability to work, and they were living a life, right? They were living a comfortable life, writing books and living off of that. They didn't have to punch the clock.
Nope.
To go from that to slavery and handle it so well, because baby, ain't no way. And there's a moment in the book where she just was like, fuck this. Right. She went upstairs and she was like, I know how to get back home. I'm done. And that was a really big fuck you to Rufus. And she sat there dealing with so much trauma on a daily basis. And she went back. And I just, yeah. So what Rufus did to her, what his father did, Wayland did to her, and I would have been going back every 5 seconds. Like, I gotta do it. Let me go back to the 70s, where it is like the 70s, 80s, and like, go back to my white husband, and let's keep it moving.
This is just, and then the way Rufus at one point, he's like, well, Daddy's a fair man. Oh, I want to beat the red out of your hair. Like, What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, well, he's a fair man, and his word is his word, and I'll be a fair man, and then my word is my word. And And just a menace. Just a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was a horrible person. His daddy was a horrible person. His mama was a horrible person. And no matter what Dana did to intervene, he grew up to be a horrible person.
A very horrible person. She did try, and I remember there was a part in the book where she was just like, she told him, she was like, I didn't like who you were becoming, and she left. And then I remember her saying, like having a conversation with him, and she was like, I don't want you to grow up to be your father. And it just, but he ended up being that shitty person. And granted, like after he sent her to the fields after a day, and I think she like passed out or something like that. And she was like, he was like, I was gonna bring you back. I was gonna leave you out there. You can tell through the book that he cared for her, because she was saving this man's life. And he had some dependency on her from the time that he was a child until he was an adult. And you could tell through the book that there was love there. But then, of course, you know, he's still a slave master, and he's still this and that. Now, just like, he definitely treated her better. I hate to even say that.
No,
He had
he
a
like
bit more privilege than others.
I see your point, because even in the book, Alice has a conversation with Dana,
Yeah.
and well, first Dana has a conversation with Rufus, and Rufus says to her, "Watch your mouth," and she says right back to him, "You watch your mouth."
Exactly.
And then later on, Dana is talking to Alice, and they're squabbling back and forth, and then Alice says to her, "Watch your mouth," and then Dana gives her a look like, "Oh, you saw that." And then Alice says to her, if I ever talk to Rufus the way that you talk to Rufus, it would be over for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Rufus treats you different. He gives you privileges that he doesn't give me. And and then she says, like, you know, he keeps saying we're two sides of the same woman. I think he likes me in the bedroom, and I think he likes you intellectually outside of the bedroom, which is what Alice had said to her.
Yeah.
So it didn't surprise me at the end when when he tried to attack Dana, and he did what he did, because he kept saying, "Oh, you look so much like her. You're so much like her." Boy, if you don't get up off me.
Facts.
She went upstairs to get her piece, and she used it appropriately. But when, I don't know, just so many twists and turns.
Yeah. But after she does that, right, and she's like, fuck this, I'm going home. She goes upstairs, and, you know, the trigger for self-harm. But she then comes home, and here goes Kevin talking about, you know, getting psychiatric care and all of these other things. And babe, you know what we experiencing over there. Like, you know, it just, like, if you do this again, then they might put you in the hospital, and don't do that. Why would you do that to yourself? How is she gonna get home? Okay.
Like, you know exactly why I did this to myself. Look at my torn up back.
Yeah.
Like, look at my face. I've been punched however many times. Like,
yeah. And then he says something along the lines of like, well, I understand if anything happened, insinuating if they, you know, were having intercourse with someone else over there, because he was like, well, I understand the times and all. And I was like, what the Kevin, shut your mouth. Y'all
girl,
both do things.
and he just kept saying, like, you know, did Waylon attack you? Did Rufus attack you? And she's just like, yeah, they punched me, they whipped me, they hit me, they made me work in the fields. And he's like, no, that's not what I mean. At that point, I wanted Kevin to just vacate the house. Like, just leave.
Absolutely.
Just,
I was no way. Like,
there's no way you're asking me this right now. Just leave. just
be
leave.
dead before we're dead.
We be dead before we were dead.
Yo. leave for work. The entire time I had dread hanging over me. I was so worried about her white husband would betray
Oh,
her and couldn't take that level of disappointment. Man. Never watched the show, never will. I agree with that. Man. Have a great day at work, Gira.
yeah. Have a good one. Thank
Yeah.
you for coming.
Um,
That's why I don't understand people saying nothing has changed. Yes, they have. Bitch, we free. Yes, the struggle continues, but we get to struggle in our freedom.
we
Yes.
struggle in our freedom. Will we ever have the level of privilege? Maybe, hopefully. But we do get to struggle in our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And microaggressions are just that, micro. You know, they are impactful, but we get the privilege of feeling that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my boss because I recently we had our like yearly annual raises, and she's from Cuba, and so I was just having a conversation about her, about just things, and her father passed away recently, and she was just talking about like life and what he had to go through, and I'm like, that plus America history, like we sitting here talking about annual raises and
Right.
how work is. I'm thankful I have a job inside four walls that I am not having to break my back over. Things
Yeah.
have changed, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. It doesn't negate the fact that there's a lot more work to do,
Mm-hmm.
but things have drastically changed.
I
Absolutely.
agree. I agree.
Hey, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy.
I get to live. Disabled kids during slavery were unalive.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
true.
Granted, if I was born then, please unalive me.
Yeah. And it's
That's not funny, but
it's
just
true.
like
And that's the thought that I had. Like, I was thinking the other day, like, because I'm disabled too, but I'm mentally disabled. So I'm like, hate that I struggle with my mental disability. And I was thinking to myself, like, they would not even have kept me around with my disability. Like, like, I get to get mental help and process my feelings at home in the privacy of my own space.
Yep.
I don't have to, pretend like I'm not struggling, And like
Such
this
a book.
this book
It's
is just
hard,
so
but
much. Yeah. Like, and this book just shows you like the blessings of what we have today. It shows you this, for people who have this thought process of like, I would just go back in time and I would just do this if I could just, read Kindred. Read Kindred and see what happens when Dana goes back in time. She even says at one point, like, I want to fight back, but have I become so complacent in being a slave? Like, is it because I'm afraid of this? Is it because I'm afraid of that? But at certain points in the book, Dana points out people's breaking point. So, like, she says for Sarah, well, I can't believe that Mr. Whalen is alive after he sold Sarah's children. But I know that if he sells Sarah's last child, he won't be alive anymore. Or Dana's breaking point. I know that Rufus is missing Alice and he's lost his mind. I have a feeling he's going to attack me, but this is my breaking point. If he attacks me, that's my breaking point. I'm taking him out. So, people have breaking points, but it just depends on how long it takes you to get there. And as a historian, there are a lot of stories. There are a lot of oral stories of slaves fighting back and, having, I forget what it's called, but they fight back and they would like break their tools and then they would act like they didn't know what they did. Like, oh, I broke my tool. I don't, but I'm too dumb because you think I'm dumb. So
Yeah.
you can't get mad at me. They would do things like that.
Yeah.
But there were other slaves who would fight back physically, like, yeah, I'm attacking the plantation master. And we don't hear a lot about we don't hear a lot about of those because history the people who, want us to know about history, the white people, they don't want us to know about these revolts, about these Black people revolting back and fighting back and being successful.
Yeah. And
So people
did.
fought back.
Yeah, people fought back in their own ways, like you said. Rebelled in their own little way, what they could.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that this book definitely had me look at is the importance of, I'm big on ancestors in general, but thank goodness they were alive, right? They were able to pass down. I wouldn't be here. And Dana, that's what she did. She wanted to keep her lineage, her ancestors alive long enough for her to be born.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, that required her to keep a slave master alive.
Yep.
So, sorry, I'm going to get to the comments in a second. I'm trying to finish my daughter's manicure.
I can read them.
Okay, go ahead.
Bethany says, I read this a long time ago, so I'll just be listening in. Elise says, I still think we have a lot to do. I think we owe it to our ancestors to keep seeking equality in all things. In my soul, I have to fight for myself and others like no one did for them. Absolutely. I can't be any other way. Jessica says, what he did to Annie was the worst. Elise says, he cared for her a little too much. Jessica says, oh, most definitely. But we get to do it in our freedom. Shit sucks here, but it ain't slavery.
Period.
Jessica says, yeah, and Kevin ain't wrong. I know my disability history. You don't want to be in the psych ward as a Black person in the 70s or earlier. Ulysses says, most absolutely. I just mean we can't live in gratefulness and not strive for a better or more. I agree, Maya, about the breaking points. Maya, unfortunately, you likely wouldn't be unalive unless you did something drastic. You wouldn't have been like the mute woman. They just would have left you alone to what tasks you could. Elise says revolts happened a lot more often than people think.
Oh, absolutely.
The only reason why I'm sane, like I say sane, the only reason why I'm like able to have a sane conversation is because I'm on medication. Because with like at one point I was just having manic episode after manic episode and my behavior was drastic. I was barely sleeping. It was ridiculous. It was awful. And so that's why I thought, oh, in those times they would just think I was kooky and weird. And once they got tired of me, they would get rid of me. But I don't know. I'm happy that I'm happy that disabled people just get to not automatically be unalived because we're disabled.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's just what I was thinking. Like, I was thinking of what I was grateful for while reading Kindred, basically. And I do every time I read Kindred. I think this is my third time reading.
Yeah.
So
it's a privilege.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I try to, if I'm going to say something negative, I try to follow that up with something positive, but life be lifing. And like Elise says, I really try to push forward. There's so much work to do. We're not done. We'll probably never be done in our lifetime.
Right.
But we've demanded and made some drastic changes that even Martin Luther King didn't even have, during the 60s, 70s, like during those times, segregation and the laws, right, did not apply. We've demanded so much. We've rallied together for change, and it was amazing. Now, as far as Rufus, bitch ass.
Oh God, Rufus.
I'm not surprised he ended up with Alice. I think that, you know, I knew he had some type of attraction to Dana and them being very similar. Fucking Rufus. But what he did to Alice,
Yeah.
horrific.
He
Didn't he come back in time and like that's when he found out that he hurt Alice? And
yeah.
that was the first time that they were together. He
Yeah.
had forced her,
Yes.
forced himself upon her.
Yes.
Was their first time.
Yeah. He literally like, oh well. And then his reasoning was just, well, she kept saying she wanted to be with that man. And Dana was like, oh, goodness forbid she want to be with her husband.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? But he just, she kept saying she didn't want to be with me and she would rather be with that black guy. And I'm like, Rufus, you're a racist and go to hell. You're a racist. You're an abuser. You're an assaulter. F you. Like, and that's just the worst part because there are some synopses that say of Kindred. Kindred is a story about a black woman who has to go back in time and save the man who assaulted her ancestor. Like, that's basically the premise of the story. Like, he assaults her and then corners her, forces her. Like, she was a free woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she ran away with her husband to keep her husband safe and got caught. And then, Rufus bought her and forced her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just deplorable, despicable, abhorrent.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just wanted to let you be in your rage, Jessica. It's okay. Right. No, absolutely. Not Annie. We didn't want to interrupt your flow, Jessica. Look, absolutely. I just it's Rufus is disgusting. And knowing again, Dana's having to experience her grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She is having to experience her grandparents and knowing that their relationship, one, was built off of master slave, which Simon and Schuster just sent me Master Slave Husband Wife. I can't wait to read it. I know Papa was talking about it a while ago.
Yeah.
And so I just got the book yesterday, so I can't wait to read that. But knowing that her grandparents' relationship was master slave, and then he purchased her.
Yep.
Forced himself upon her. I don't know how I would process that. And like real time. Like, this was not in my head. I would think that my ancestors were married and they were this and they, like they didn't have to like each other, but they were together and they raised their kids and they, like in my head, I would like to think that. But she's like in the moment, real time.
Yeah.
With her grandparents. Great grandparents. But yeah. This is how she came about as a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Was Alice.
And she couldn't, just the torture of knowing and wanting to help Alice so badly, but just knowing like the two things, the paradox. If I get rid of Rufus, then Hagar doesn't exist. But also, if I get rid of Rufus after Mr. Wayland passed away, what's going to happen to everyone who's here? The families are going to be split up.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to be sold.
Yeah, and when she finally makes the connection, because she knows that Rufus is one of her grandparents or ancestors, she knows that there's a connection with her and Rufus. She finally figures out, okay, I need to figure out, who he's going to have kids with, and it being Alice. And so the moment that the baby was born, what was it, the second baby?
Yeah, I think it was actually like the third one, because she had two before. She had like two. No, she had one before, and then it got sick. Two before, and then they got sick, and then they passed away. Then she got pregnant with the redheaded boy, and I can't remember his name. and then Joe, I think, and then she got pregnant with Hagar.
Hagar.
And then he sent Joe and Hagar to Baltimore to go live with his aunt, but lied and said that he sold them into slavery.
He portrayed it. I took it as him. He didn't, from my understanding, the kids were gone, and she assumed, and people assumed, that they sold the babies.
No, she said that he told her.
Oh.
And Dana said, "Why would you do that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I thought that if I could scare her, she would start to act right and stop trying to run away."
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh, well, I was acting like I could get them back." And then because he said, like, that's why Dana kept saying, you ended her life. You did this. And then he kept saying, "Stop saying that I ended her life." Bro, you did. She did this because of what you said to her.
Mm-hmm.
You told her you sold her children away into slavery.
Mm. Having the slave masters' babies for them to turn around and take their own kids. Not like he was going to have any white kids.
Right. And not that he wanted to.
Not that he wanted to.
From his warped sense of view, he loved Alice.
Mm-hmm.
He really believed that he loved Alice. And from his point of view, he's doing the whole, well, why can't she just be grateful? I'm treating her well. I'm doing this. But, Alice would literally say, he hits me, he throttles me, he thrashes me around and beats me. That's not love.
Yeah.
And you're if you love her, you would set her free.
Yeah.
Right? So just this warped sense of like, well, I'm doing the best I can for them because this is what my dad did.
Yeah.
I'm glad he wasn't written in a way we had to feel sorry for him. He was trash from the beginning.
Yeah.
True. The only time he wasn't trash was when he was drowning and he woke up and spit up water and then cried to his mom. That was the only part of the book that he was in that he wasn't trash. And that's because he was a child. He was an infant. He was a little kid. And then we come back to him still being a kid and he's setting fire to the drapes. Like, you menace.
Think Alice, even though he started comparing Dana to Alice, I think he was done.
Yeah.
I think he felt, because he truly did, and like you said, his warped sense of love, trashy, the way he definitely cared for Alice, for sure.
Yeah.
And was it a healthy relation? Absolutely not.
No.
The times were not healthy.
No.
But I think he was done. And knowing Dana's wasn't going to put up with that, I'm not surprised. She's out.
And
look,
you know what?
At this point, my grandparents are here. My grandparents are alive. Okay, they're well. So
yeah,
they've been born. So at this point, we don't need you.
See, and this is my third time reading it, but this is the only time that I realized, like, she goes to him whenever he calls her when he's in danger or when he's been hurt or when he believes he's going to die. So she gets called to him at the last chapter in the rope, and he's just either standing there or sitting there in the mud. Then he takes her, and then anyways, he goes inside, and then he grabs the gun.
Yeah.
And then he's like fiddling with the gun like he's going to shoot himself, and she starts to walk in and sees that he has a gun and starts to back out, like, oh, if he's going to kill himself, then let him kill him. Let him do it. I'm about to back out.
Yeah.
And then he puts the gun away and then calls her in there instead. And I think that that's when he makes the decision of, like, when you said that he made the decision, like, oh, I'm done, I think that's when he made that, when she came in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when she got called. That was my impression. That's why she was called back.
Yeah.
Because he was, it's always fearing for your life, right? And so, or something's happening to him where he might pass. And so that's when she comes to save the day. And so him having the gun, knowing that, okay, well, the love of my life, mother of my kids is gone. I did this. I feel some type of guilt. Let me take my own.
Yeah.
And so that's that. And then she shows up.
And
And I'm
he's just
glad
like,
that he didn't, because the two kids needed their papers for freedom.
right, they did, yeah.
They needed that.
Yeah.
And he did give them that.
Yeah.
So, that's also when Dana's parents or grandparents, the start of freedom for their lineage, for their
Yeah.
line, started. The biracial children were, Black children were born.
Yeah.
And then also now they're free.
Yep.
So now she knows her history. She knows when she became a Black,
Yeah.
family became Black, and then she also knows when they became free.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she had to deal with that.
It just and the other part that makes me cry is when in the epilogue, when she goes. It's in the epilogue when she goes with Kevin back to Maryland, and they go to look at the history of the house, and there's nothing there. It's been burned down, and there's no foundation. There's just the foundation. But then in the papers they read, it says like the people by name, like Nigel, Sarah, sold. And just like, all those families split up, like, and sold. And the only ones that were spoken for were Hagar and Joe, because they were in Baltimore with the aunt. Everybody else just got split up from their families and sold. And like, slavery must have been terrible, but you had your family.
Yeah.
Until you didn't anymore. And that part always tears me up at the end. Like, even like, I have tears in my eyes. Oh, it just tears me up. It tears me up. The whole thing tears me up. But it is such a well-written book. I'm so impressed. Every time I read it, I cry. It scares me. I'm afraid. It moves me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's impressive.
It really is. She put her foot in this book.
Yes. And then she comes. Oh, do you have Tums?
No.
Oh no. When she comes back, so he attacks. So like, he had the gun, puts the gun away, and he attacks her.
Alec. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
On mute.
Okay. Like, he attacks her. She has her switchblade, so she, stabs him. And as he's dying, she's getting warped back into present day. And as she gets warped back, she feels something tighten on her arm. And then it grips even tighter. And then it's excruciating. And then her arm is stuck in the wall. Like, oh, that ending. And I remember reading another interview where Butler says the reason why she created that ending for Kindred and for Dana is because you cannot go through slavery unscathed. You cannot. So she lost her arm. I just remember the first time I read that, what a twist that was. Like, my eyes are tearing up.
I didn't understand the significance of it, other than it was related to the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
But that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yep. She just you can't go through slavery unscathed. Something has to. You're going to be affected one way or another. So she showed that a physical. Just wow. Let me look up.
The ending was horrific. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Do you have gum? It says a home remedy for heartburn is chewing gum. So if you have some gum, maybe you could chew.
Oh, I have some peppermint. I'm gonna go get some. Or I think I have some ginger. stuff. Hold on.
Ulysses. And didn't she get lashed in the face as well? Like, I can't remember if I'm conflating the book or the TV show with the TV show. But I want to say she got whipped on the back and she got whipped on the face too. So she had scars, you're right. Like, she went through hell. She went to hell and back. And then back. And then to hell and back and to hell and back. Like, oh, the plaster and the tightening on the arm.
See, I thought this was enough.
Right.
I thought this was enough. Put some ACV. I ran out of ACV the other day. And
What
water and
is
drink
ACV?
that's all. Apple cider vinegar.
Oh, okay,
Yo, she got beat up. And then she would go back in time.
She did get punched in the face.
And she would go back in time and then like go back to the present day, and then a day later or a few hours later she's back in it. Like, there was never a break.
No.
I agree. Octavia being Octavia.
There was no break until the end where she's like hadn't gone back for 9 days. And then Kevin was lecturing her.
Yeah.
You're never gonna go back. And then she goes back right as he's saying that.
He's saying it.
Oh, he could have called him all kinds of bastards when he said that. Damn you, Kevin.
Yeah, she got punched in the face. Octavia.
She did.
She can't, right. As if you didn't traumatize us enough, the ending just has to be horror.
Just horror, straight horror. Oh my god.
I have a gallon in my house at all times. It's $20. ACV is a staple. I'm gonna try these ginger chewies. This is what I have.
Okay.
Because man, that was kicking my ass.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden in my throat, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? I was checking my heart rate. I was like, is something going on? Like, is everything okay? Man, got it. I was pulsating. Fucking Octavia.
Just
Traumatized.
And I could see her young self in 1979 just smiling her face off after she wrote this. Girl. No, she said that she put a lot of effort into this, and she said that it was very harrowing for her to write. She actually went to Maryland and did some tours of plantations so she could get a sense. But then she said the plantations were like, what do you call them? Like gentrified, in the sense that the docents, which are the tour guides, the docents were mostly like, and this is where the servants slept. And it's like, what do you mean servants? They were slaves. Like, what the hell? Yeah,
much whitewashed.
Yeah. She says she did research in the South for her book, and it was just very, very hard for her.
Octavia. She's still traumatic.
Yes.
Very traumatic.
Yeah.
But we did it. Might have been traumatized in the process.
Yes. Yes. Butler.
I don't like the new cover. I don't care for the new cover. So I got this one.
Yeah, I don't.
My birthday gift from Maya.
Yes. I got this from Shaping Her Earth, which is a group started by Dr. Ayanna Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent this to me for like answering a question on Instagram about Parable of actually it was about Kindred. So she sent this to me. So I have this copy and I have this copy. I think I'm going to give this copy to my cousin because my cousin loves Octavia Butler but does not have a copy of it.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice. Well, Octavia, we've read her books.
We did it.
We did it after a year. of traumatic experiences, everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. We got to see her gravesite.
Right.
That was great. That was so much fun.
Yes.
Pine cones. I am down to 2 pine cones because I lost one on my way back.
Oh, okay.
They were together. How did that happen?
Oh.
But yes, got the pine cones and then got to see her bookstore.
Yep.
That was a great experience.
I have Octavia's bookshelf. There we go.
Bag.
Oh, it took me a second.
Yeah, I should have got a bag, but I got the bookworm t-shirts for me and my daughter.
Which I wanted a t-shirt, but I only had enough for the candles in the bag that I got, so
Yeah, it
I
just
gotta save up and go back. It's expensive, but
super expensive.
yeah.
It's super expensive, and I wish they had more Octavia.
Yes. Here's one of the candles I got. Pack the court with black women.
Yes, it smells so good.
It just yes.
It smells so good. Wild Seed and Kindred are my number 1.
Yes.
I would say Kindred, Wild Seed. I also want to say what is it? Not 𝐬𝐿𝐼𝐼. What's the first one?
Dawn?
Dawn.
Yeah.
I just like the Blood Child. Why did you just say that? Why you just type it? Just say it.
I was just typing it and I was gonna say it when you were done.
Blood Child and Other Stories.
Wow.
Freaking phenomenal.
Yes. Wild Seed, 𝐏𝐳𝑚, Kindred, and Bloodchild, and Other Stories. It's between those, and it's no particular order. But those are my favorites. Just fantastic. I am gonna listen to the Powderness series over again starting next month. Just because Robin Miles narrated it. So.
Robin Miles. So you guys remember when we had the whole discussion about Octavia being taken off of the shows? Oh, not out of the shows, but off of Audible.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were upset about it. Like, oh, they're limiting their lack of access. No, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
It was a great thing. And I know I did some research before having a conversation about it, but a lot of the times it's a renegotiation of contract. They are taking it from Audible only and putting it other places, and the access is not Audible only anymore. And so I knew that there was some works happening. Robin Miles redid all of the Powderness series, which is phenomenal. My library has the audiobooks now.
Yeah.
And what used to be Audible only is not anymore. And that change, unfortunately, yes, it gets pulled. We're not able to access it. If you purchase it, you still have it. But if you did not purchase it, you did not have access. Yeah. And so it took about a month and a half for everything to go through. But now these libraries are able to pick up the audiobooks, and people now can get their hands on it. And I'm so happy for that.
Robin Miles is a phenomenal narrator, and she narrated the Wild Seed book already. So she just went back and narrated the other 3 books, and I cannot wait to listen to her narration. Oh, the way she does voices. I fell in love with her voice for Shafa in the Broken Earth trilogy, which I haven't finished. I'm still on the last book. But like her voice for Shafa, oof. It's great.
She is an amazing voice actor. And I'm glad that they have like their own little awards. I wish they were recognized so much more.
Yeah.
Well, I follow some on Instagram, but they're phenomenal. I don't, especially when it comes to fantasy books, I could not get through without audiobooks, and I need them. And
Oh
they
yeah.
experience so much,
Oh yeah.
so much
Have
more.
you listened to like book track versions of them? Book track versions are supposed to have like a little bit of music and like audio engineered sounds in the background to go with the story and the narration.
I don't know about book track, but I know about the dramatic audios.
Oh yeah, I have
They're called
not listened to the dramatic audios yet, but I have the website favorited on my bookmarks.
Mhm. Yeah,
Cause
the dramatic audios. It's they in the beginning of it. It says a movie in your head, and it's like the crunching of the sound or the sand and all of the things. Like they're actually trying to, create a movie with the audiobook. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, Fledgling. I
that
would
was a
say
great book.
I would definitely say 𝑦𝐶, Kindred, Fledgling, Bloodchild, and then Dawn.
Okay, yeah. That's
Well,
fantastic.
I know people don't like Fledgling. It was uncomfortable, but it did what it needed to do.
Fletching is a good book.
It
That is
was
it's a great book. Oh man, I wanted to see what else she was gonna do with it. That was a great book. I couldn't wait to see more of
one
Shuri.
and done. One and
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Look. Oh, yeah, she could have expanded that so much more, but
She was going to. But it was good the way it left off.
it was phenomenal.
Dragging that bitch in the dirt like you racist stole bitch, get over here. That was one of my favorite parts.
This has been an amazing year.
Yeah.
I really yeah, she's great. Exactly. Fledgling creeped me the F out. All of her books are just like whore. Don't go just thinking that you're gonna have a fun time. And it trips me out that people will recommend the most traumatic books ever. And I'm like, just start with 𝑦𝐶.
Yeah.
Please start with 𝑦𝐶. It's an introduction to her horror. You're gonna get crazy, but you're not gonna get full on uncomfortable.
Right.
Please just start with 𝑦𝐶. Yep, Fledgling was great. I meant one and done. Look, I know what you meant. One and done. Okay. Yep. Look, it would have been nice to have a sequel, but it's fine.
It was great the where it ended.
Yeah. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I got to spend a year with reading her books, hanging out with you.
Me too.
Meeting her gravesite and seeing her gravesite, her bookstore. Also, this is Maya. Let me see if I can move our photos. No. It's not letting me. It's not gonna let me. Dang. Okay. Let me remove us. There we go.
Yeah.
We met each other in real life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great year, and I'm glad to be done.
Yes.
Between Zora, I will definitely read her books again for sure. 𝑦𝐶 is wild too, but it has funny parts in its wildness. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's intriguing, it's fun. There's like, just shape shifting and all different types of things. Like it's a great place to start.
And there's Doro.
And there's Doro. Okay, OG 50 Yes. Now may she rest in peace. Yep.
Right.
I'm gonna have to rest in peace on my shows for a little bit. I need some time to recover. I need some time. It's been a year. Yeah, trashy Dora. Dora will forever be my number one character. I mean, I might start keeping track of like great characters that I absolutely love. That might be something I need to start doing. Dora will forever be live in my head rent free. Oh no, my lock just like tore apart. What the freak? Anyway, Dora will forever live in my head rent free. Him as a character, I could have read a whole series about him and just his pimping ways, okay? His what he was trying to do and the creations that he was trying to do. I could have read a whole series about him and hated every single one of them, and I would have loved it.
Yep.
Yep. He's definitely a character you can't shake look at all, because I don't remember a lot of people
Right.
characters, but Dora
was
he
something
never
else.
left my side. Dora just like
something else.
man, traumatized. Anyway, that is it for this live discussion. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you, Bree.
Not wait to continue reading with you.
Yes.
Other books, not. I gotta take a break from Octavia.
Just buddy reads.
Yeah.
Just buddy reads.
Buddy reads.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This long discussion of Kindred. I really appreciate it. This long year of Octavia E. Butler. It's been. It's accomplished. It's finished. We've done it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got introduced to a lot of crazy books, a lot of amazing books, and so I understand why she's the inspiration for a lot of authors.
Yeah,
that give her her flowers, and so
the mother of Afrofuturism.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Ooh. All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a good day. Enjoy your weekend. See you tomorrow at 5 Central Standard Time for sprints. Bye.
Hi, everyone.